We have financial aid here, we have student life and everything safety related here. We have everybody who knows in my office about the academic portfolio. So new students, returning students, you can put questions into the chat or just raise your hand and shout out. We will take questions any way you wish to ask them.
I actually have a couple of questions about particular classes which I will have this semester.
Mm-hmm.
And my questions are about classes such as acting for camera and film production, you know, if there is any like particular like strategy how they're gonna work out since they're not gonna be in live classes, you know?
Right. So this is in Media X, is that correct?
Yes.
The film production. Scott,
Yeah.
do you have anything specific that you can?
Like, this is the acting for camera class. Like, how is it even possible? You know, I'm kind of really concerned about this one, how it's gonna be.
Scott, you're muted at the moment.
Yep. I was just re-reviewing the email from their chair. So,
Yep.
So the MediaX has, I mean, it depends on the type of class. The acting class, I don't have as specific information on, but they have several virtual platforms that they're going to be using, and they feel like they have a pretty good handle on how they're going to be able to manage those things.
Okay.
Obviously, in an acting class, you're not going to have the same, I mean, you're going to all be virtual, but they have several platforms that they're pretty confident will be able to allow them to accomplish similar, though not the same types of activities in those classes.
Okay, so the most important is that they will stay. They still will
Yes,
be.
they're all staying. Yeah, and there are no classes canceled. And in fact, I know that Professor Armagnac, who does teach acting for the camera, I'm pretty sure he does, or at least he has before. He's planning a production of Twelfth Night in conjunction with the conservatory. I mean, you know, they're figuring this out. So as Dean Jensen says, it won't be the same, but it will be, you will be acting. And I know Professor Pontucci is figuring out both Adobe licensing and what kinds of photography and film is going to be happening. So no classes have been canceled.
Okay, because this was my next question to ask about all this Adobe Premiere, Photoshop, because I don't have any access to those ones. So you said they're gonna like provide us with the.
Yeah. So actually, I've been on a lot of emails with Professor Pontucci about, you're talking about the licensing. We are figuring out the kind of computers that we may have to buy for students, as well as the licensing. So Kevin is quite aware of what you need, and we will get it. So
yes.
So don't despair. Don't worry. It's happening. And could I say this to everyone who has these kinds of questions, which are the important questions to ask? The chair of your department will have really good specific answers, and you should not hesitate, even though it's still August, don't hesitate to write them, to email them. Any student, whether it's a first year or returning student. And you may be asking them things that they hadn't quite thought about, so they will be grateful if you bring it up.
Yeah, right. Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
And to reiterate again, because I think a big part of your question was, are some of the classes going to be canceled? The answer again is none of the classes will be canceled. Some of the more difficult ones to do, some of the content will shift slightly in those classes, but they will be held and we'll be accomplishing learning in those environments. So good question.
So I'm going to the chat room questions now, and the first one that I see is what's happening with housing. And other than athletes, Anne, I know of very few students who are being given housing. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are on-campus housing is of course limited. Athletes, and then of course international students, as well as some other folks that have been identified as having a particular need. Of course, if you are, there was a housing request form that was sent out. Some of you, if you've applied for that, you should have recently gotten an update that we are working through those and working to get responses as soon as we can. And so those kinds of updates will be happening soon, but on-campus housing will be limited. On-campus dining, all of those kinds of things would be very limited for the fall. And if you've applied and are waiting on an answer, we're getting that information out very soon.
Okay. There will be no faculty on campus to do anything other than demonstrate labs in lab spaces, which was another question. Are all science labs going to be online? Yes, they will. So faculty won't be teaching from their offices. They will be teaching from home, except when they have to be. So that's me now doing something weird. Unless they are demonstrating chemicals getting poured, or animals getting dissected, or an actor, moving in a particular way. So, I hope that answered. I hope I answered that question. There's another question about dining, and again, I think, Anne, there's very limited dining. If there are any students on campus, they're going to be handed a prepackaged food, but this is just for very, very few students, correct?
Yes.
It's not
So,
like anybody can go in and say, I need a hamburger today.
Right, absolutely. So again, very limited. Dining options for the fall are still there's still details being sorted out on what exactly would be open, what that would even look like. There are still some details, but folks who would be living on campus, we would ensure that they would have the ability to make food, have access to all of those kinds of services. But you should expect dining services to be very limited.
Okay, great. Scott, I don't know if you're privately answering some of these questions about chem and biolabs, but maybe just can you, for everyone, just in case, and you're still muted. There
yes, I'm typing a response to everyone. I'm not responding privately, but I'm gonna post some of the info from the chairs about the specific labs.
Okay, great. Generally, all the chemistry labs, biolabs are going to be online, and there's different kinds of experiments that they'll be doing. So you'll be posting that, and we can repost them on the blog on Monday for other people. That will be a really important thing to do. Research related things. Yeah, that's a really good question. Of course, some research are through books and articles, and that's easy, right? That will still go on in the social sciences, in the humanities. As of now, research has been suspended in the sciences at the university, and we are all waiting for the governor to give us guidelines about when research can be conducted again in labs. We have been given permission to teach within labs, but not to conduct research. So faculty will be figuring out different kinds of, even in the sciences, different ways with science reviews, but not hands-on at this point. There will be no hands-on. I mean, there will be no students, and right now there's not even faculty doing hardcore wet research in labs. So research opportunities will have to be in this virtual environment. Scott, is there anything that you would add to that about research opportunities for students?
Yeah, first I'll say for some reason the chat is not allowing me to just copy and paste, so I'm having to do some retyping. So that's why I'm slow on the answers.
Okay. As I say, we can also maybe more easily get these to Elizabeth, who can then email them out to everyone.
Okay, that's probably a better idea.
Yeah.
In terms of research opportunities, so as Dean Fraden said, there's no, the state has shut down any ability to do traditional research right now. We expect it to be reopened in some ways, but there are still some, that's in-person contact or other types of research, but there's activities that are engaged in research that are still available because they're done remotely and not actually collecting data. And so my guess is that, and again, I don't have this confirmed by specific faculty, but my guess is we'll all be working to find ways to engage the students who are interested in some types of activities.
Thank you. That's my understanding too, because students have been emailing me about this as well. And I've asked our provost, who herself is a scientist, and she said, sign up, don't drop those. If you are already registered to do research with a professor, reach out to that professor and ask them. And in almost every case, I can confirm what Dean Jensen has just said, that faculty are doing workarounds. It may not be exactly what you hoped for, which was literally getting your hands wet, but it will show up on your transcript as research, and scientists often do research that is written and not wet. So we're finding those opportunities.
If you're looking for a research opportunity off campus, there are a number of national organizations that offer research opportunities throughout the school year and during the summer. Or if you're looking for observation hours or shadowing experiences, I'm doing my best to stay up to date to see what the various industries are doing, because I know a lot of our pre-health programs require shadowing hours in order to apply to graduate school. So feel free to come see me or Sam about that, and we'll get you the most updated information.
Thank you. There's been a couple of questions both about housing and financial aid accounts. And Caitlin, you're suggesting if somebody hasn't gotten an updated account for 3 weeks, that they should do what?
Yes, Ashley's question was pertaining to a payment that she made that's not reflecting perhaps on CashNet. That is all managed by our student accounts team. So any questions you ever have regarding like a billing statement or a payment, I would start with student accounts first, and perhaps if it needs to be routed our way, because we just make sure that your aid is on the account. If you've made a payment, our student accounts team kind of monitors all of that. So if you've made a payment, it's not reflecting, definitely touch base with them. They can look into that for you.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you. Were there any other questions that I've missed about either financial or the housing dining? Is it clear?
I was just specifying, someone had asked if we had a more specific timeline, and I'm sorry that I don't have a more specific one for you for housing. Just as soon as possible, we'll get those responses out.
Okay. Okay.
One student was asking about when they would find out which books they need to buy, textbooks for classes.
So information on textbooks should be available currently if you go to the bookstore website. That's where it's usually posted, and those all should be available. They should have been available since late spring. So,
and if for some reason you either can't find the bookstore or it's not listed there, again, I urge you to write to the faculty member who's teaching that course. I think for all of us, for staff and for faculty, the most important thing for all of us is to be available to answer questions. That's the primary job for all of us this coming semester. and faculty are ready to respond. And if you're not hearing back from faculty, you need to let me know. And Fraden at pacific.edu. That's my job, to make sure that faculty are responding quickly to your requests. Looking at the chat. Oh, thank you, Scott. There's a question about Psychology 53. That's a Dean Jensen, definitely. You're muted.
Right. Michael, do you have more on what your specific question is about 53? You're in the section that's being taught not by Dr. Norman, but by the new faculty member. I don't know if you can unmute, Michael, and I can just answer your question, or if you want to type it in, either way.
What is Psychology 53? I don't know which
behavioral psychology. And so there's two sections being taught this fall. One is by Dr. Norman, and one is by a new faculty member that should be here in the next week or so. But they're available for contact now. So if you can just let me know which class, and I can get you who to contact. If you know, I mean, I guess I could look it up as well for you.
I actually have
Yeah, okay, so I'll send a message directly to you, Michael, of the new professor's email.
I actually have one question about the one particular class I took, and I don't really understand what is this class about, and nobody really could answer me this question. I registered for this one, but I don't really have an idea. If someone could explain me, about this particular class. It calls The Exceptional Child, SPED 123. 123, yeah.
Yeah, so the Exceptional Child is a class taught in the education school, and it's focused on special education in a school environment mostly. And so it'll go through a lot of the problems that kids can have while they're going through school, a lot of the disorders. So you'll touch on things, different mental retardation and its impact, and how responses are to that, autism, different things like that.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. Okay. It's not only the class for like teachers and in education department. It's like a good option for me to take if I'm interested in something like that. The exception.
Oh yeah, it's a really common class that's taken by students who have any interest in childhood issues and things like that. It's a good preparation class.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you. Any other questions about specific courses or technology, or any other resources we can point you to?
I have a quick question.
Hmm?
So I'm just curious, but why were all the freshmen moved from Bio 61 to Bio 51?
Yeah, I think I'm going to defer to Professor Dean Jensen on this. I think I know the answer, but I'm sure he will know.
You may actually know better than me specifically, but the issue is which class is easier to teach in this online environment. So what traditionally happens is students start in 61 in the fall and then take 51 in the spring. And I think they just made the decision that 51 they were going to be able to better teach in the online environment, and so they made that shift.
And specifically the labs, it's much easier to demonstrate the labs in 61 virtually. 51, I think everybody's hoping that we'll be back. We'll be back in the classroom, and then it'd be easier to do those kinds of labs.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. It's a big flip for the faculty, but they believe this will be easier for everyone. So that was their That was a big lift for them. Will student IDs be mailed to our home address? This is for first-year students, I'm assuming, right? I don't know. Anne, do you know?
I was just thinking, I don't know. I am happy to find out for us though, and I can get the information to Elizabeth.
Great, and then we'll
and
post that.
report back. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I don't know. I would assume yes, right? I mean, obviously, that has to
Yeah,
be.
that would be my guess, but I'm not sure, and but I can find out.
Okay. The question about Bio 51 and 61, no, there's, we don't link those two. Sometimes it turns out that the 51 and 61 are the same professor, but sometimes, you know, there's many different sections of 51 and 61, and sometimes students in the second semester have to change their schedule and they don't end up with the same professor. So for those first year students or second year students starting out, you might hope, and you might even sign up, or you might try to get the same professor, but some professors don't teach the second semester, some do, so it's not a guarantee.
Oh, I have another question about
Yeah.
Bio 51. So, now will the textbook for Bio 51 be the same as the one for Bio 61, or are they different books?
That's a really good question, and I don't know the answer. Scott, I don't know if you do, so we'll find out.
No, I don't know the answer to that either, but yes, we can find that out and we'll make sure the info goes out with what Elizabeth sends out.
And again, if you do know now who your 61 teacher is, who the professor is, just send them a quick email. You know, hi, I'm starting. I'm so excited to be in your section. I can't wait. Should I buy this? You know, do I need to buy another textbook for 51? Go ahead, introduce yourself. Especially for first year students, it will be so good if you, I know I'm teaching a tiny little 1-unit class and I'm about to send out a message to all of them. It's just so great when a first year student writes back and says, I'm excited, I'd like to meet you. And so please don't be shy about that. Reach out to them and ask the question, but we'll find out too. I should know the answer, I don't.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Scott, you're dealing with the education question. Yeah, I'm curious about that also in psychology, Scott. When you do observations, how is that going to work? How are you planning to do that in psych coming up this next semester?
I'm assuming that will vary by student. I don't know. I mean, not by student, but by faculty member. I don't know which observations you're talking about. A lot of the observations we do is observations of research, and I'm assuming most of the faculty will just be using recorded videos that have been previously taken of those types of things, and
okay.
rather than live interactions.
And we know that some school districts might be open part-time and other school districts will be totally closed in the fall. So again, it will be random how these things happen. Thank you, Angela, for telling us about biology classes. The same book, but it depends upon the professor, so you can't be sure. And that's why, again, it's really good to ask the professor. So some use the same book, some, okay. Good to know, thank you, thanks. Tiger broadcasting is going to be happening. Thank you for that great question. The communication department and Graham Carpenter, Professor Carpenter, works in that radio station, and Tiger Broadcasting is our radio station, and they do great, programming. They interview, and they used to do sports, following the sports teams, but they also just have great talk shows. Students can sign up for any of it, but Graham Carpenter teaches a great communication media production intro, but you don't even have to take that. You can just sign up. So there, Elizabeth, maybe we could also just have a little, you know, if you're interested in being a DJ on the radio station, contact Graham Carpenter. That's who it would be, Professor Carpenter in the communication. I'm really thrilled that we get to keep doing that. And we've had to buy some equipment that will allow this kind of virtual thing to happen, but we're planning. So, and I think internships, yes, I would be surprised if we didn't. I'm sure that we will. If Tormud, if I've pronounced your name right, if you find out that I'm wrong about internships, let me know, but I'm assuming there will be. And I always look forward to hearing the radio station. So, anything else making you anxious or excited?
Did see where one student asked how will clubs and organizations and professional societies work in the fall? I didn't know if that was answered in the chat or not. But.
So almost every department has clubs, and I am assuming that they're going to happen on Zoom. And in some ways, I don't know, in some ways, Zoom will make it easier for students to get together, I hope, I think. Some of the activities will obviously be different, but I haven't heard of any clubs not continuing. And do you know about student life? I mean, there's got to be lots that you're planning in student life around clubs and so forth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Student life, leadership, and clubs and organizations still planning on both staff and students, you know, having student employees working as to support the clubs, as well as to be there to support the advisors. So it of course will look different in a virtual environment, but if you are part of a club and you're not quite sure, I'd encourage you to reach out to your club's advisor or get in touch with us in student life. We can help you out as well. But absolutely, they're putting platforms and you know, resources together so that clubs and students can still engage virtually and safely.
So for first year students, where do they go on the website to see even what the list of student life clubs and activities are? I mean, I know the ones that are in each department, they're very academically, you know, the chemistry club, the bio club, you know, that sort of thing. But what about student life? Do they go to just student life and find here?
And I might need a bit of a say from Dan and Samantha. I know we used to have OrgSync. Do we still have OrgSync?
We'll check the ASUOP.
We'll check it because they're
page.
Yeah, because they definitely do have there's like a app. I think it's not OrgSync anymore. I think it's called TigerLink. It's actually what it is. It's definitely called TigerLink out now that it's coming to me. Yes.
Yeah.
So TigerLink, we'll make sure the link is sent out. We can get that information for you all, but you should be able to, when you log in as a student, you can see all the different kinds of clubs that there are. So you can search and do different things, get the contact information for the advisor and whatnot. So we'll get the TigerLink information for you.
Okay, and ASUOP, Associated Students of the University of the Pacific, right? And
Yep.
everybody belongs to that, correct? I mean, everybody who's a registered student is.
Yeah, is part of the student, is part of ASUOP, and then there's leadership within it. So you have like COP as a senator, for example, that you can go to get if you're looking for student leadership type help. But yes, absolutely.
Okay, so now there's a flurry of things here. Swag. Oh, Candace, you're in charge of pins. That's the only swag I know about from COP. Where are we?
It's from Weekend of Welcome that they're asking about. Do you know anything about that? Things being sent out to students?
Oh, okay.
Yes, I do believe that they're getting, I'm sorry, my dog is barking in the background. I do believe that they're getting those things together to be sent out before Week of Welcome starts. So that starts the week before, or Week of Welcome. So that starts the week before school. So they should be trickling in here in the next week or so.
I just saw on Instagram that they're sending them out. So if anyone wants to check it out, the little bag's there. So it said they're going out really soon.
That's great. Thank you.
And You said earlier, I believe another question came on when to expect to hear about housing.
I wish I could give a more specific timeline, just as soon as possible.
Does anybody know if the bookstore is open on campus? I'm assuming not. It's not, right, Dan?
It's not open for going in. People are working there because they're shipping out books to any students who order them. So the way you have to contact the bookstore is at the link that I posted earlier in the chat. If you go to that link at the bookstore, you can order anything, they'll ship it to you. All of that should work.
Great, thank you.
And someone asked a question about the car office. They're available by appointment. I had to go down there earlier this summer to get a replacement card, and they still have, they'll still have someone in there working. You just have to call ahead, and they can take appointments by phone or by email.
Okay. Any other two other questions? This was wonderful for us to get to hear and to be able to answer. Questions really, Anne and Caitlin, Daniel, Samantha, thank you so much for being on this with us. You're the experts. We will be sending out then information, the recording, a blog to all of you, but whenever you have a question throughout the semester, this is our job. We're here to answer, or if we don't know the answers, to find out for you. So please, please let us know who you are. I would love to hear from each and every one of you. And in the meantime, have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. And we'll see you in just a couple of weeks.